first with Proposition 50. Californians are voting on it today. And over the summer, we saw a gerrymandering fight start in Texas and make its way to the Golden State. Prop 50's Governor Gavin Newsom's plan that would directly retaliate against redistricting efforts in Texas, and the measure would essentially leave it up to voters to decide if the congressional map will be redrawn. And the maps in Texas have the potential to flip 5 blue seats red. And this Prop 50 map would have the potential to flip 5 red seats blue. It would directly counteract that Texas map. So to start off the conversation, what are your thoughts on Prop 50?
Well, honestly, Brittany, I don't love any of this. I wish we didn't need to do this, but I also live in the real world, and I know that, California had a decision to make after Texas went down the road of extreme gerrymandering, and I think that we really have no choice but to pass Prop 50 to have any shot at fair representation. I will tell you that in Congress, I actually voted twice to make independent redistricting the law of the land nationwide, and I would gladly vote to do so again. I do think, though, that what we saw with Texas, and I think in other places as well, potentially, is fundamentally different than what is happening in California. In California, we're actually going to the voters, up or down vote on the map itself, and done in adherence with the Voting Rights Act. There were some that wanted to see a complete Democratic map in California, 52-0, basically to try to undo what Texas was doing with their maps, just gerrymander as much as humanly possible. That's not what happened. In fact, the ballot measure itself is one time, it's temporary, and the maps that were created, well, they are likely to result, as you said, in more Democratic seats. They were done in adherence with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. So, that plus it goes to the voters themselves to make the final decision up or down on the maps, I think makes it different than what's happened in Texas. But, I am also very aware that there are a lot of other states that are considering mid-district or mid-decade redistricting, I should say. And I think it's really got to come to an end. And we, I hope after all of this, we'll realize the best thing to do for the country is to have fully independent redistricting across the United States. That's certainly what I would support.
And gerrymandering, as I'm sure you know, it's not a Republican problem solely, not a Democrat problem solely. Is the objection here that gerrymandering is happening mid-decade? Because other states like Illinois have been gerrymandered worse than Texas. I want to read some stats from Illinois. In November 2024, 46% of voters in the state voted Republican, but only 3 out of their 17 seats in the House are Republican. What's the gripe here with Texas? Is it that it's happening mid-decade?
Yeah, I think that's the particularly unique and egregious aspect of it. And I don't like gerrymandering wherever it has happened in the past. And I don't like the fact that we have to do this in California at all. As I said, I support independent redistricting, and I hope we can get back to that. But when you had the President of the United States go to the governor of Texas and say, find me 5 seats, which is what happened here, then it created this chain reaction all around the country, just like the administration is now pressuring the Indiana legislators to try to find 2 seats there, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really unfortunate that we're in this position, but I am very pleased by the fact that the average person here in California has recognized the need for fair representation and to stand up against what we're seeing across the country in different areas, and also at a time when California really seems to just be a punching bag for this administration, where they're coming after our funding, where they really just seem to hold a grudge against California for whatever reason. And I think it's incumbent on California to stand up in this moment for fair representation, and that's exactly what we're going to do tonight.
Do you think, though, then California Republicans are getting fair representation here? Are they just getting the short end of the stick? Because I know people were upset for Texas Democrats with this gerrymandering fight, but what do you think of California Republicans? Because technically, because it is such a huge state, California does have the most Republican voters in this country.
I totally get it. As I said at the beginning, I don't like any of this. I wish we didn't need to do it. But again, California was presented with a choice given the egregious actions of the Trump administration, which either was to roll over in the corner and play dead, and act as though this didn't happen in Texas and in other places, or to stand up and try to level the playing field. And that's what we're doing. We're standing up and we're leveling the playing field. I don't like any of it, to be honest with you. As I said, I don't think this is the right move for the country. Long term, we have to get back to independent redistricting, get the politics out of it. It's one of those pernicious things about our political process where it benefits the incumbents and it's very hard to change. It's very similar in that way to the campaign finance system that needs dramatic change as well. Or the fact that, there's all kinds of little rules that benefit incumbents, like even the fact that, members of Congress got paid last Friday during a government shutdown unless they wrote the House administration saying not to pay us, which I did. I know many of my colleagues took the paycheck while their staff got nothing. So, it's tough to change rules, Brittany, when those rules help the people who are in office. And that's ultimately where we need, I think, a meeting of the minds. We need to hold hands and jump and do things that may not always be in our short-term self-interest, but are in the long-term good of the nation.
And Governor Gavin Newsom, this was his plan. He led the charge here on Prop 50. And he said this when he was talking about it: if we don't put a stake into the heart of this administration, there may not be an election in 2028. Do you agree with that premise, that perhaps if the GOP keeps the House, if perhaps Prop 50 doesn't pass, there could not be a democracy?
Well, I don't want to, go too far in saying what Prop 50 is about, other than to say that we have to have a fair playing field in California and across the country when it comes to congressional representation. And we have to make sure that we have free and fair elections in 2026 and in 2028. I am concerned by the Trump administration sending DOJ representatives across to California and New Jersey when there's really no evidence that that's necessary, particularly in a place like Orange County, California, where I'm from, where I know they're sending people to, already be making allegations about California's election being fraudulent, that sort of thing. It serves no purpose other than to continue to muddy the waters to try to delegitimize the 2026 and 2028 elections. So I think those concerns, I think, are well-founded given the president's reaction after the 2020 election, the false allegations of fraud then. I think we have to be very clear-eyed about this whole thing, Brittany. We have to make sure that we stand up for a free and fair election tonight, which it will be, a free and fair election next November, and then on to free and fair elections in 2028. And I hope that rather than just do whatever Donald Trump says, there are Republicans across this country who will want to stand for free and fair elections as well.
And looking across the country,